and welcome to What's Happening, a show where we discuss EV news across the world with Omkar and Manish. So let's begin. Hi Manish, how's it going?
Very good. How are you? We got a new location.
Yeah, we are on the other side of the mountains now, shooting in Bombay. So I think a lot of stuff has happened in the last month since we recorded this particular show. Yeah. I think the biggest of them all was the Bharat Mobility Expo that happened in Delhi. You were there, you spent a lot of time over there. So how was it?
It was good. So I was there as more to kind of understand what's happening in the overall EV scene and more on the technology side. So people are asking me, Bharat Mobility, how is that different than the Auto Expo? So actually this is a concerted effort now by the government to kind of take the OEMs, the component manufacturers, the governments, the state of Maharashtra, the state of Orissa, all these different entities, and basically put them all together in one single format, and that it's Bharat Mobility. So that's kind of what they're planning on doing on a yearly basis. So almost like a one-stop shop for anyone that wants to potentially do something in India in the automotive scene. And let's not forget, there's a lot of stuff happening on the EV side and even on the technology side, and that's the reason why I went. But having said that, what was really interesting, there was a couple of things that I noticed that I really, wanted to talk about. One was, first of all, Maruti. Again, they showcased their eVX. And they're kind of inching along. I think hopefully by the end of the year, I think they mentioned that they would probably start taking orders or shipping the Maruti eVX. And they didn't give much details of it as usual, but they did say it's going to have two battery packs of 48 kilowatt hour and a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack. So
the last time we saw the eVX was last year in Auto Expo in January. Since then, I don't think from a design standpoint, there's a lot of changes that have happened. It still looks around like a sub-premium or a premium hatchback, but it's more of a platform game at this point in time for Maruti. I think they're just seeing what's happening in the industry. We came across their interview, the head of marketing and sales gave an interview with NDTV, and their concerns still are about the charging infrastructure that is there in India. So I think their entire plea is they say that they've done a lot of market research and saying that when a country goes beyond 5% of EV penetration in terms of four-wheelers, that's when the inflection point sort of comes, and that is the point where Maruti wants to introduce the eVX, where currently I think we are at 3 or 4% of four-wheelers, right? So eVX is very interesting. I think that will come under their next sub-brand, but still a lot of details are awaited. I think we don't know what architecture the vehicle is going to be at. No. They say it has a 555 kilometer range, but is it IDC, is it ARAI, is it true range? No, we know.
Exactly. So as you mentioned, it still kind of looks like a concept vehicle, so even the rear view, the outside mirrors they look like cameras, so they're very thin. Yeah. So obviously that's not going to happen in production. What's interesting, actually, this was, so obviously it's branded by Maruti, and obviously they've got a collaboration with Suzuki, but this is actually also in partnership with Toyota. Which I was very surprised. So you've got a lot of different, companies kind of coming together on this platform, and their whole plan is they want to manufacture this in Gujarat and also do exports. And I think that's the whole purpose of this show itself, was to kind of say, hey, India is an export hub, and I think Maruti wants to be one of those other manufacturers that also does a lot of manufacturing here and exports out.
Yeah. So how soon are they saying that eVX is going to be out for sale?
They said they didn't give much details, but I'm guessing another year from now potentially. Let's see.
So maybe like 24, 25, Q2, Q3, that kind of deal.
That's what they say, yeah. But that's what they keep on pushing it, and I'm sure, like you said, part of it is because of this penetration of 5%. I'm sure they're just kind of waiting, but I think it's a chicken and the egg situation. It's going to happen no matter what. So I think you're going to either you have too many cars, you don't have enough cars, you don't have enough chargers, you have too many chargers. So the right equilibrium just will never really happen.
But I think comparatively to other OEMs, Maruti has the biggest advantage in terms of the amount of dealers and distributors that they have across the country. So that's what, let's say, Audi, Porsche and BMW did in India, right? They put up some chargers across their dealerships. So let's say BMW has about 35 or more of these dealers across India who has like a 50 kilowatt charger across over there. So let's say if Maruti comes out and charging infrastructure is their bigger problem, their easy way would be just to have some bit of charger installed across the dealerships, and that would be a very interesting play for them, I guess.
No, so that's exactly one of the things is everyone's looking to them because they're the market leaders.
Yeah.
So I think part of, some people are a little concerned saying, they're taking a really long time, but maybe they're taking a very measured approach towards entering the markets. And yes, they've got a huge dealer network. So even if they were to install, let's say 5-6 chargers in each location, that should help. But then the truth is they do sell lots and lots of vehicles. So maybe even 5 or 6 chargers at each location is not enough, but it's a good start to get going.
True. All right, so that's very interesting. We're looking forward to Maruti, but then you also saw the electric G-Wagon, I guess.
Yeah, so that is the one that has been talked about. So this also is actually a concept vehicle. So they're calling it the concept EQG, as in G-Wagon. And again, this was, it was on the showroom floor. So, you really couldn't, take it for a spin. And that's the whole party trick of that is what they call a tank turn. So you can kind of get it in sand and then, or, a very dusty road, and then you can kind of have the vehicle just kind of do a full 360 in place. So, but I was able to take a look at it. It does look quite nice, typical G-Wagon on the inside. But I think they're just doing a lot of these road shows to kind of get a sense of, is this a vehicle? What kind of numbers can they expect to sell? But I think more than anything else, I think it's definitely going to come into play because people just want to have something unique, and that vehicle definitely offers it.
I mean, we saw the clips rolling across Twitter or X at this point of time where there are 3-4 G-Wagons just doing a complete 360 turn, and I was just going, how is it happening? So do you know? I have not.
So that one was done. I'm assuming this is the one you talked about about a month ago.
Yeah.
So they were in Las Vegas. So there was a show in Las Vegas, and apparently that road they had actually made it very, very wet right before they started. So they watered down the road, and then they were able to do those tank turns, as they call it. So they had 3 or 4 of them in a row doing it. So obviously visually it looks really interesting. And again, it's a party trick. It's sort of like when you get a Tesla Plaid, the 0 to 60 times are crazy. You do that a couple times, and then you're kind of like, okay, I'm back to normal driving. And I think the same thing is going to happen with the electric G-Wagon.
I think it's like the crab crawl that's there with the Hummer, the EV Hummer,
exactly.
and all of those things. When it was such a big hype when it was first launched, I guess.
No, exactly.
So I think let's move a bit to a global perspective now. BYD essentially. Blew a big surprise for all of us. They are inching very closer to surpassing the Q4 sales or Q3 sales, it was, I guess, for Tesla.
So, so first of all, BYD is build your dreams, so that's the actual what they, and so the funny thing is, they said when they first started the company, BYD, many years ago, I think it's been almost 20 years if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't build your dreams, it was something else, but it just kind of, they took the initials and said, okay, let's maybe call it build your dreams is what it is. But bottom line is they've been doing this for the last 20 years. They do their own cell manufacturing, their own chemistry, all of that. And they've been focusing on the fleets, as you mentioned. So fleets, they've been doing a lot of the bus fleets all over the world, so just not in China, but across the world, they've been doing it very well. So there, you kind of get economies of scale, you learn a lot of things. And then slowly they have been focusing on hybrids as well. But this past year in 2023, Tesla, when you look at all the cars that Tesla sold, was about 1.8 million cars. And BYD did 1.5 or 1.6 million cars. So they were right. So everybody's saying probably next year, BYD will probably overtake Tesla, and this is just the pure electric. BYD also sells hybrids, but I think we want to just kind of take that to the side. But when you look at just pure electric, and this is, coming up from really next to nothing over these many years. And I would say, they did fleet sales, but I would say the car sales have really pushed those numbers up. And so it was a big thing when they announced it. And I think in Q4, the big talk was they actually manufactured more cars or sold more cars than Tesla in that single quarter. So that's where everybody was going crazy. But when you look at the actual financial year of 2023, they just barely missed the Tesla numbers. But
but these are just pure battery. If you combine hybrid, it's just like a lot more. And this is from a company which is, in an automotive standpoint, not very old. I mean, they started in 1995, and all of these like Fords and Volkswagens have been around for decades at this point of time. So a very young company does their own cells, their own chipsets, everything. And their huge thing is fleets. I mean, if you see all the Electra buses, and those are BYDs as well. And it's not a bad car. So I think the last story for us for this particular episode is coming from Bangalore. I think a place where almost every EV startup in India is coming out of. The news is that River, a very interesting company, raised another $40 million from in their Series B with Yamaha leading the round. So just a bit about River. It started just 2 years ago. So from an EV perspective, unlike Ather, which started like in 2013, or let's say Ola and started in 2019, River is a fairly newer company. The founders have EV experience. I mean, worked in previous other startups that were there. Their co-founder was the head of design for Honda, and as well as for Ultraviolet. So these are the guys. These guys clearly know how to build stuff, right? And if you look at the design of the River, the Indy, the first scooter that they launched, I mean, it does look very, very good. And they're calling it the SUV of scooters, focusing a bit on the utility market. So they want the urban guys who are a bit into utility, want more of space. They want a cool looking design, but bigger, wider, taller people. They can't accommodate on an Ather. So design is pretty interesting. And in the Series A was $25 million. Again, from an EV standpoint, it's a very rookie number.
Yeah, very small number.
If you see, the EV startups are raising like, $100 million, at least on average. So in just $25 million, these guys build their prototype, have their R&D setup done entirely, have their production setup done, as well as they rolled out their first set of production-ready scooters. So in very small amount of capital, these guys are able to do a lot more. Their production facility can do about 3,000 to 4,000 vehicles annually, which is a number that they're estimating that they would have for the first or the second year. And now they have raised $40 million from existing investors, as well as from leading the pack is Yamaha. So there is a trend I think you can also see that is going on in the EV market currently, where the legacy OEMs are essentially putting down a lot of money in the EV startups. So you have TVS, which has put down a lot of money in Ultraviolet. You would have Hero, who has put down a lot of money in Ather, and you also now have Yamaha, who is putting down a significant amount of money, and also would continue putting down in River. So what do you think?
Well, I have never heard of River until you showed it to me. And when you showed it to me, I was like, wow, dude, I want that. I've not said that about any scooter I've seen so far, but that one looks really good. And actually what really took me was the dual headlights. So it actually reminds me from a vehicle from many years ago, probably 30 years ago, maybe even longer. It was actually from Honda. It was called the Honda Zuma. So they used to have a scooter, and it looked very, very cool looking, and it had a dual headlight just like the one that you showed me. So I wouldn't be surprised now when you say Honda. So it has some inspiration. They must have looked in the back catalog, but it looks really good. It looks very beefy. I love the overall, but like you said, the overall trend is, the traditional, you want to call them old, but the traditional manufacturers have realized, it's a typical what they call innovator's dilemma. Either you can kind of shut your eyes and say this is not the way to go, or you can kind of say, we're going to continue doing what we're doing, but why don't we put some money into these new guys and see what they can do? And you see it across the board, and it's happening, and I think it's great because at some point it's all about innovation. I feel whenever when I talk about EVs, people say, EVs are not the future. I said, I'm not really an EV hardcore. I'm about new energy. So whether it's hydrogen, whether it's EVs, and I think that's the same thing all these traditional manufacturers have now realized. It's about new manufacturing, new processes. Even Tesla, when you look at them, people talk about EVs, but the biggest thing that people are benefiting from is their whole gigacast. The way of manufacturing these vehicles is also coming down in price, and that benefits everybody. So I think the same thing with these guys. When you have a little bit of money, you have to make the most of it, and this just shows you, even on a $25 million raise, they're able to come with the product to market, which is amazing, and that's part of it. When you have no money, you got to figure out how to get it by hook or crook.
So I think interesting stuff coming out of Bangalore. We got to talk about Bangalore, I guess.
At some point.
We need to sort of see what is happening with Bangalore, I think.
Maybe take a trip there, who knows?
Yeah, so it's just I think fueled with right attitude, I guess. There's a lot of young companies, a lot of good investors out there.
I think at the end of the day, it's technology. That's the truth, and that's where a lot of the technology innovation is happening. I mean, if you look at Ola, the reason why they're there is because they moved out there just to build the Ola app, and then from there they say, hey, why don't we just stay in this area and we can build out our gigafactory for the scooters, because it just makes sense. Although a lot of the parts manufacturing, component manufacturing happens in Pimpri Chinchwad is one area, then there's Delhi, but I think they've decided, let's make that like the scooter hub, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, man, I think we got to take a trip down over there.
Sounds good. Alrighty.
Okay, so that's it for this episode for What's Happening. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Sounds good. Take care.